We are live. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Johnson, and welcome to our live chat. And let me give my props to my dear colleague, Cassandra Williams, who is the brains behind Educational Innovations 360 Degrees. Our guest this evening is Amer Qatanani, DBA, Doctor of Business Administration, and he is Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Methodist College, Peoria, Illinois. In addition to his academic administrative duties, he is an executive board member with Global Online Learning Development and Extended Network, and he is an advisory council member for the Harvard Business Review, where he contributes content, provides feedback to editors, and considers theses regarding management and leadership. Dr. Qatanani serves on the program review committee with the Accrediting Commission of Career Schools and Colleges. He's also a distance education specialist with the Accrediting Bureau of Health Education Schools. Dr. Qatanani is a collaborative executive leader who advocates for excellence across academic, digital education, business, healthcare, and technology sectors. And he has received the 2020 Global Forum for Education and Learning Top 100 Leaders in Education Award for his works. Dr. Q.
Thank you, Dr. Dave, for having me. I really appreciate
Well, I'm glad to have you here.
great podcast, and this is a great place to make an impact on people and help them really to understand higher ed leadership and anything aspect come with it. So
Right.
thank you again.
Well, I look forward to our conversation. Let's talk about your background for a moment. Now, you have a doctor in business administration, but of course, you didn't just jump from a high school all the way to a doctorate. What was your path? How did you get to the place you are
Absolutely.
now?
Thank you. So I have a bachelor degree education of science, my master in organizational management, and as you see, my DBA was on the leadership business administration. My dissertation was focused on the impact of leadership on managing and operating online and blended school, and how this leader can make an impact in higher ed, in not just only on leading, it's taken this institution to the next level. It provides online high quality of education. That's where it make a huge difference. I started as a school teacher actually, and then I moved to a higher ed as personal fitness program, a part-time. I'm a certified personal trainer, and then I start teaching fitness, and and then I moved to a leadership as I uh, pursued my degree and progress to higher, and I
Mhm.
really like it since then. And always love technology, always live online blended
Mhm.
modalities, and I got to this year, and then I continue from there.
Great. Well, one of the things that stumps me is your background is in science, as you said, and you have a DBA. Why a DBA and not an IT degree?
Absolutely, thank you. I do love IT,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I like the administrative portion of it. I like to manage the aspect of technology and higher ed. Again, student and my first priority, I do love to help and work with the student. All same as with the faculty and leadership in any institution. This is my passion on really provide this service and support to all staff, faculty, and student.
Hmm. Now, something I usually ask people, and as my guest, I must ask you as well. What do you see as the difference between leadership and management? For example, what you described, your work as a vice chancellor of academic affairs, sounds more like leadership. So, where does management come into the work you do?
Absolutely. So again, this managing it's more forcing or implementing policy procedure and send it out to the team. And I do believe leadership it's the way more fit me as bringing everyone on the table, make them as a part of decision making. You want to make your team feel their matter, and you need to get them involved on the process. You need them you need to make sure that they're on it, and you need to let them part of it. So because they can speak to any different situation, you cannot solve every single issue by yourself. I'm
Mm.
not perfect, and no one does.
Hmm.
It's
Now, from what you've presented and what I've learned about you thus far, your work and your academic setting revolves around health careers. Tell us a little bit about your school, the Methodist College.
absolutely. So Methodist College is, they have two division. They have nursing division and art and science, and we all focus on healthcare and really provide help and support to the communities. Community needs a lot of healthcare workers. Our brand is care, how we care about these students, how we can really reach out to the student. They live in the remote areas, or they need really help so they can provide to their family. And as you know, most of the students, they really a first degree for them. They want to use this degree to really provide to their family, and you make a huge difference on the student life. And because you're not changing one life, you're changing the whole entire family by really help these students to achieve their goal, provide them with the skills and tools to make them feel like they are ready to move to the next level, so they can really progress as they continue with their life.
I think one of the things you are suggesting is that online learning or blended learning for healthcare schools is different than a, let's say, non-healthcare school.
I do believe, let's go back, Dr. Dave, to the foundation. The primary purpose or the goal of online blended hybrid or ground, it's to provide the same quality. If you're talking about online versus residential, fully ground, but the outcome is the same and we achieve the goal, that's the purpose of it. Students get more busy. Students have more, in 2022, as we get COVID, and we'll talk about it in a minute, student has more stuff to do on the daily life, and they have more responsibility. We need to maximize these tools to these students in order for them to perform well. And again, there's a lot of if opportunities we have. We have tons of software simulation where we can utilize to help these students to move them to the next level. But we need to have these right people in place,
Okay.
and you need to really maximize these effort to every single one of them.
Mhm. Well, our topic tonight is Leadership Elevates Online Blended Learning Outcomes in Higher Education. We have 4 bullets or topics to address here. Where would you like to start?
Absolutely, I can start before COVID. As you know, um, online learning wasn't really promoted, or no one has a lot ideas on, not the majority of a lot of institutions. They do have some online learning, but it wasn't really is the majority of these classes they do offer online. When the COVID happened, we got not almost 97% of these classes they went to online modalities. There's a big challenge because we have COVID and they shut down most of the schools, and we have to have an emergency plan. What are we going to do? We have a lot of students, we need to provide support. We have a lot of faculty need support as well, and you have to use the tools and softwares, simulation, to really promote online learning. You want to make sure you want to meet the quality. As you know, there with healthcare, there's a lot of skills required to, to site where the student have to come in and perform these skills and competencies on the ground. Um, Being creative and implement a policy procedure to really support these students need help in a timely fashion. As you know, we are need nursing, healthcare in general at that time to really get them prepared so they can perform well during COVID. We needed them. The hospitals really demand these healthcare workers. And I felt we got to make sure every single faculty, student, they're well prepared, provide a solid orientation, onboarding process
Mm-hmm.
in a timely fashion in a short amount of time. Or how do you make sure the student understand online modalities, understand the navigation on the LMS, uh, learning management, and faculty know how to manage um, um, this process in the online platform.
Let me ask a question. All right, so that bullet is before, during, and after the pandemic. Well, when the pandemic struck in, let's say, March of 2020, there was indeed panic. Everyone thought, oh, 2 weeks, it'll be over. We'll have spring break and it'll be over. But when we saw that it was not over and it still isn't over, we had to pivot, the term is. So, what were you doing before that pivot? How did your school use technology, or how did schools use technology before
Absolutely.
the pivot?
So, Dr. Dave, I was, at that time, I was the corporate director of blended education. I did have the handbook. I was lucky at that time, and most of the faculty they do have the LMS. It's
Right,
already it's already
right,
in place.
right.
It's one of the challenge. You know, you have the grant like 100% residential. You have to really come up with action plan where how you want to move everything to curriculum to the LMS, how you want to train the faculty, how you want to make sure the student receive an orientation and they are ready to go.
Right.
And it takes a lot to not just only implement and provide the training and follow up
Mm-hmm.
with the student and faculty. It was really a challenge, but we all worked on this together, and I believe being creative and implement a lot, as you mentioned, a lot of competencies
Right.
within the program, build it so we can track the student progress throughout the program, even if they operate on online, fully online. And then, after that, students start going to the ground. They
Mm-hmm.
perform some of these critical
Mm-hmm.
competencies, so um, they are good to go after that. Thank you.
Now, Dr. Q, again, going back before the pandemic and thinking of the terms online and blended learning, was it more of a blended learning setting as opposed to an online setting?
Correct. So some accreditation they treat online, blended, and hybrid as online,
Mm-hmm.
because if you manage online part of it, they want to know how do you support the students, what quality, what's interaction and participation within the online environment, what type of quality and quantity
Mm-hmm.
feedback you provide to these students. If student ask question on these LMS, how do you really manage this aspect as a leader? How do you
Mm-hmm.
track this progress, where we implement a lot of daily report on called interaction in the online environment. It shows how many submission the student done, how when the last time the faculty logged in,
Mm-hmm.
what type of support if there's a question and answer, how would we direct them. The LMS itself should have everything for the student as support needed, because
Mm-hmm.
it's very tricky if you're not going to have this interactive piece where adaptive learning, even on the reading side, when we build these classes, we build based on the teaching modality, start from understanding until to the critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where we student read online. How do you track their
Right.
reading behavior? You have to
Right.
implement some adaptive learning where they track their learning so they can bump up some questions, ask them how well, and you can follow up. You can know what's their reading behavior, and you determine if the student really, and the student really benefit from it after a while.
Now, Dr. Q, let me stop you. You mentioned adaptive learning. Now, I have an idea what adaptive learning is. I want to make sure that we're on the same definition. We use the same definition. What's your definition of adaptive learning?
Adaptive learning of is the piece of an online environment where a student really interact with this piece. I do believe any type of software we can really provide the student the application piece. That's adaptive learning, where students create things and try to do things to help them to increase their ability to perform. That's one of the adaptive learning we should really implement and force it in the future for these
All right,
students.
I'm going to jump you some more here. One of my backgrounds, one of my experiences is assessment. And in the assessment realm, there's a concept called item response theory. Item response theory, where if a person were to answer one question, from that answer, you could assume that the student understands a lot of other things related to it. For example, if I ask you to multiply something, then that implies that you know how to add as well. So I don't need to ask you whether you need to add. I just need to ask whether you can multiply. And that's item response theory. When I think of adaptive learning, I think of it as item response theory, where if a student answers question 1 and gets that one correct, perhaps that student's gonna skip to question number 5 because all of between 2, 3, 4 have been implied by answering number 1. So how does that fit with your definition of adaptive learning?
Absolutely, this is a critical piece here. And
Right.
when we switch these faculties, over 400 faculty, when switch to online modalities, and they have to go back to the ground. They said, no, I want to keep using these tools, even if I want to go back to the ground and teach it, because it shows how much work the faculty can save for them to help the student. You are utilizing a lot of simulation where and adaptive learning, as you mentioned, you know exactly where the student at and how you can really help them and support them versus utilize the paperwork or manual work. It's going to take more work, and at the same time, it's not going to be as effective as the way online utilize these online blended modalities and the LMS as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, Dr. Q, believe it or not, we have just like 13 minutes remaining. So of the list of 4 things we have here, where would you like to jump next?
Absolutely. I would go with the skills, go in order, Dr. Dave.
Okay. Right.
So the one of the important skills the leader should have is in the online communication and technology. When I meant about communication, a lot of these leaders, I go on the ground and I operate on the ground. They do operate a 100% online, and in order for them to really have more impact, and you got to have a great communication with every single member, not just only with the faculty and staff member, with the student as well. How to follow up with them, how to really support them to move them to the next level. The reporting, if you don't, you have to have a tracking system in your mind. How do you want to track things on the student progress, on the faculty, on even on the programmatic outcome, retention, attrition, placement, where you need to know exactly when each program, and you have to have this mindset. You assume you want to support every single student when you are reviewing these report and data. And I think this is a really, really critical piece, even on these failing report tracking. If you get student fail one time, if you want, how do you want to make sure the student supported on you get the final grade report, you get the interaction grading. So there's a lot of pieces and skills that these leaders have to have. That's the first thing. The second one, it's they're willing to help the others, get them onboarding on learning this technology piece.
Do you mean the students or faculty members
The
willing to
faculty,
help each other? Okay.
the faculty, and the leader have to really work with with the team to really make sure every single student did receive appropriate orientation,
Okay.
and no one goes to online without orientation, because that's really important for the student to understand the teaching, the LMS, and understand how to navigate on every single.
Here's a
So
question for you, Dr. Q. You spoke about tracking student performance or outcomes. Do you do data analysis to figure out where the students are regarding their
ab-
academic performance?
absolutely, it's so important for us to track the student in a daily basis, not just only
Daily.
weekly or monthly. You can track their dailies. There's a lot of report you can run. The first one is, the LDA, we call the attendance report. For these,
Mm-hmm.
you have, exactly the student. You got the student at risk report. It's not only just at risk on the grade side, it's at risk probably on the competencies side, on the skills
Mm-hmm.
side, where what, because if you want, you have to capture these students early in order for you, for us to really provide them to support. Student gonna go to different level, different stages.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure every single stage they're well prepared to move to the next one.
Now,
As you
who
move,
was using those data? Would it be you as the administrator using those data, or
correct.
would all faculty member know how to
It,
collect, download the data, and interpret the data?
so there's many different way, Dr. Dave, to collect data. The first one, it comes from these software where you are collecting that data.
Okay.
As an admin here, you and we usually customize these data and provide the what as leadership. The team also work
Mm-hmm.
on it and make their analysis and provide it to the faculty. The faculty have the ability to track their data on the LMS platform. They go to the analysis side. They can know what's the interaction piece, what is the student missing. They can click on every single student to know where the student at and what type of help and support they need. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is really important for us to promote competencies, not just only on the grading. I know grading pass and fail, one of the measurement, but the competencies piece has to be together, has to be mixed, where you want to make sure your student there are ready to go and ready to, when they graduate, you are 100% confident these students they will perform very well in the field. In
And
order
the
for us,
competencies are important because students earn their certifications based upon their performance on the competencies. So it's
absolutely.
critical to them getting to the workforce.
Absolutely. And again, it could be best. Sometime institution really, when they talk about pass and fail, okay, so where's the skills piece of it? And that's where very critical. We should really have it as the same things where we need to know exactly that's these students need to pass the exam or the board exam, but
Okay.
I want to make sure they are well prepared. And I know a
Right.
lot of if graduate when they go in the field in general, they need a lot of support, as especially if they're not really well prepared on these competencies.
All right, Dr. Q, we better jump on. We have only like 6 minutes remaining. So where would you like to go next?
Absolutely, challenge a challenge we're facing now. It's many challenge, Dr. Dave, and I
Go
know you.
ahead.
I do believe one of the biggest challenge in online it's really if you not get familiar with technology and lack of information and learning, this is one of the critical piece because leaders need to really understand technology first and learning online methodologies and how to really help these faculty they will operate online in order for me to be a good leader on this online is very important and critical. And lack of communication, it's also and collaboration. It's not just only on the academic side. Dr. Dave, there's multiple department in the institution. You get the admission, you get the enrollment, and the student service, student success. You got tons of these departments, and we need to work smart, not hard. Sometimes you want to support the student or what type of process and procedure you need to help. When the student service has to step in, when the faculty has to step in, when the leaders has to step in. And that's where we feel like this leader has to be really have this critical and mindset where I need to put these pieces together, and we need to work to really provide extra help and support to the student without really impact the process. So this is where I feel like we have a lot of work to do in the future as a leaders to really put everything on one page. And it's not just only get the faculty familiar with online technology. It's also the staff, the admission team. They should really speak to the D2L or to Canvas or to Moodle, the LMS platform. They need to,
Right.
because that's how you promote online and how well they know, and during the orientation as well.
All
And I
right.
think this is really critical. The last one.
Yes, sir. We still have time. Go ahead. Go for it, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Uh, Leaders really, um, there's a lot of ways you can help teacher and staff. You need to provide training. Is one of the critical thing where the leaders has to really implement. Provide them to support. Great onboarding. When the faculty comes and
Onboarding for faculty or for students?
for faculty and new student orientation
Right.
for the student, absolutely. And we have, even during the onboarding, even during the enrollment process, Dr. Dave, we should provide some type of computer assessment prior to the start date, because if you want to know where the students stand and how the student really, what their technology skills, you can provide remediation if you feel like they're struggling versus when they
What's
go.
the likelihood that students in our generation or the current generation, no, maybe there are multiple generations, your students, what's the likelihood your students need remediation in technology?
But I do believe it's varied, Doctor Dave. It could be, this generation, new generation, they're really good on technology. They're using phone 24 hours, 7 days. So probably on these all the like emails and get them familiar with the LMS platform. That's one of the very critical piece to help them want to navigate, or you can find the support. How do you submit discussion question? How do you provide qual? How do you utilize the adaptive learn smart, for example, reading exercises, a smart book. These things, it's the navigation piece. I think that's where we have some work to do on. We have to provide a demo class for these new students
Mm-hmm.
where the student can come in and do things because you want them to apply. Again, we need to use the
Mm-hmm.
application
Mm-hmm.
skills in order for them. A lot of students, by reading, they are visual learner. They have to apply it also.
Mm-hmm.
And when they and the student orientation itself, where we have to have a 100% session just
Right.
focus on using technology, how to use this particular product because you're going to use it in the future. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something we are using, and we'll see a lot of great outcome where the student
Mm-hmm.
feel like very comfortable, utilize technology, and they're ready to move to the next level.
All right. Well, Dr. Q, we have a minute and one half left. So we've spoken about a lot of different things. What would be your basic takeaway that you'd want our audience to have?
Absolutely. I need to, again, one of the most important part before COVID, a lot of institutions believe online is or blended or, it wasn't really that quality as on the ground, but COVID changed everything.
Mm. So what's the takeaway?
My takeaway is regardless of what delivery we have to the student, it's good as you provide the tools, you
Mm-hmm.
track the outcome, you
Mm-hmm.
know exactly they have every single skills,
Mm-hmm.
competencies, they can perform well, and you do provide these timely fashion support.
And
You
Dr. Q, if people want to know more, how do
yeah.
they contact you?
They can go on my LinkedIn. Here is
Mm-hmm.
below, and they can just type my name,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Amer Qatanani,
Uh-huh.
and they can contact me anytime.
There you are. Well, thank you so much for being our guest. Our guest tonight was Dr. Amer Qatanani, Vice-Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Methodist College, Peoria, Illinois. I'm David Johnson from Transform Ed Consulting. Again, thanks to my dear colleague, Cassandra Williams, who is the brains behind Educational Innovations 360 Degrees. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. See you next time around. Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone.